All right, today we're going to dive into a set of golf irons that really forces every player to ask a tough question. What do you care about more? The way a club looks or the numbers it actually puts up on the scorecard? This is all about performance versus perception, and the surprising truth you can find inside a design that, well, some might call a little chunky.
So let's start with a question that I think we've all wondered about. If a company makes an iron that's just ridiculously easy to hit, why doesn't every single amateur golfer use it? You'd think it would be a no-brainer, but the reality is, our decisions about golf clubs are rarely that simple.
And that question leads us right here, to these guys, the Tour Edge Exotics Max Irons. Now you can see they've got a pretty unique look, and the review we're looking at, well, it doesn't really pull any punches. It calls them chunky.
And that whole chunky thing leads us straight into what we're calling the forgiveness dilemma. It's that age-old conflict, right? You want a club that's going to save you on your bad shots, but you also want a club that looks and feels like something a pro would use. I mean, at the end of the day, every golfer is on this exact quest, aren't we? We all just want clubs that help us hit the ball better, have more fun out there, and maybe knock a few strokes off the handicap. And that search, it almost always leads us toward clubs that promise maximum forgiveness for those, let's say, less than perfect swings.
So let's dig into how these irons completely challenge that first impression. Because in this story, what you see is definitely not what you get.
And the reviewer, James Robinson, he just tackles this right away. He's not trying to pretend these are some sleek, blade-like irons. Their look immediately screams game improvement, which for some golfers can honestly be a bit of a turnoff.
But here's where things start to get interesting. The moment you actually put the club down behind the ball, the view from your perspective, it's surprisingly clean. That thick top line that looks so big in the bag, it just doesn't feel nearly as distracting when you're actually ready to pull the trigger.
And boom, here's the perfect example of that disconnect. Literally moments after calling the design chunky, the reviewer just flushes a 140-yard wedge shot that is, in his words, all over the pin. This is where performance starts to yell a whole lot louder than looks.
So what's the deal? How can a club that looks like this perform with that kind of precision? It's time to pop the hood and see what kind of technology is driving these things.
Okay, so the performance really breaks down into three key pieces of tech that are all working together. The whole point is to improve the feel, get crazy ball speed all over the face, and make the club unbelievably stable. Let's take them one by one.
First up is Vibe Romacore. So this is basically a fancy badge on the back of the club. It's got a really important two-part job. First, it kills unwanted vibrations, which makes the club sound and feel a whole lot better. Second, it saves weight, which lets the designers move the center of gravity to the perfect spot for maximum forgiveness.
Next, we've got pyramid face technology. Now this is pretty cool. Inside the club face, there are more than 100 little pyramids of different thicknesses. The whole idea is to create a massive sweet spot, so even when you miss the center, you're still getting really fast ball speeds.
And finally, the MI Plus design kind of ties it all together. They push the center of gravity way down low and to the back, and use a wide sole. All that creates a super high moment of inertia, or MOI. In plain English, it just means the club head is incredibly stable and won't twist on you when you miss a shot. It's pretty much the definition of forgiveness.
Okay, so the tech sounds really impressive. Sure, but does it actually do anything? Let's get to the numbers from the launch monitor, because this is where the story gets really good.
This is the moment of truth, right? All the cool names and design features don't mean a thing if the results on the screen don't match the hype. So, do they?
First up, the 7-iron. The average carry distance was a staggering 177 yards. For a lot of us, that's getting into hybrid territory. It's a number that immediately makes you sit up and take notice.
But, huge distance can be totally useless if you can't control it. And control comes from spin. Well, the 7-iron was spinning around 6,000 RPM. For an iron built for distance, that is an awesome number. It means the ball's actually going to stop on the green, not just fly over it.
But hold on, because this next number, this is the one that tells the entire story. 175 yards. And what's so special about that? Well, this wasn't a good shot. This was the carry distance on what the reviewer called a complete mishit, struck way out on the toe.
Okay, let's just put that all together so it sinks in. A perfectly struck shot carries 177 yards. A total mishit carries 175 yards. That means you lose only 2 yards of distance for a bad swing. That level of forgiveness is It's just mind-blowing. So when you take that initial skepticism about the looks, you factor in the hidden tech, and then you see that jaw-dropping data, the reviewer's final verdict becomes pretty darn clear.
I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? He went from being skeptical about the looks to thinking they might be some of the best performing irons he's ever tested. That's a huge shift in opinion, and it's driven entirely by the results.
So let's just recap what we've learned. You get big-time distance, but with enough spin to actually control it. You get insane forgiveness that makes your bad shots way better. And you can still flight the ball high and low. This is performance that can hang with any of the top brands out there.
And that brings us right back to where we started. After seeing all this, it leaves us with one last thing to think about for our own games. When it's time to choose your clubs, what really wins the day? The way they look sitting in the bag, or the way they perform when it actually counts?